you, Kristen. Just to check, can everybody hear me okay, Kristen? Or
Yep.
We hear you fine.
okay, good. So yeah, so we are actually using an ESRI solution that is available, in which we then take that solution and kind of customize it to fit our clients' needs, as well as being able to fulfill what KDHE is requiring for their inventory. And so with that, I'll kind of go over a few slides here that detail on how the water customer, the information that they will fill out, as well as kind of giving an overview on then how that information gets to the utility that they can review and QA/QC, and then do the editing on their end on the utility side service lines, as well as showing a couple of dashboards that kind of provide the metrics on the status of the inventory. So with that, what you're seeing here is it's a survey 123 form in ArcGIS. And so how we are setting this up is with a QR code, like that can be put on the utility owner's water bill, just something so that their customer can have easy access to this form, where they can then fill it out, detailing the information pertaining to their service line in their house. And with that, once that is filled out, the information will then be automatically pushed up to the ArcGIS Online account, where like the water manager or another staff member can see this dashboard to see how many are coming in, and then as well as seeing how this information has been reviewed for the QA/QC process. And then I am going to go, I'm actually going to skip this one for now and go down to here. So the good thing about this solution that as ESRI has provided is you don't have to have your system mapped in GIS, but it for sure provides a lot of benefits on being able to have that information already in there, because you can then auto populate, the size of the line, the material, and that sort of information that is required. However, we have had clients that do not have their system mapped in GIS. And so with that, as long as like in their billing software or something that they have in a database that they can extract out to a spreadsheet that at least has the address and the account number that we can relate to, we can then publish that information into the GIS and start with the system in that way. And what this is here is showing both, as you can see on the legend, it's showing the status of the utility side on the left and the customer side on the right. And the dots on the point, the black dots represent that those have not been checked yet or verified from the utility owner. And then once the information is completely entered into the GIS, As I mentioned previously, we can then export out a spreadsheet, which we then can use to populate, in this case, KDHE's spreadsheet. I will now go back up to this dashboard. So again, this dashboard is just a tracking device that the utility manager or whomever you want to have access to this is just checking the status of the lead and unknown service lines, the unverified, and such. And plus, once the inventory is complete, this also gives some metrics on once the lines are needing to be replaced on where the utility stands there. I will now, I'm going to go. So this, again, this is, what we're showing here is pretty much straight out of the box from Esri. And this is just the, kind of to give the community, this is like where the QR code would go. And so this is, kind of gives an overview on why this information is needed to be collected. Where here it gives an explanation on why they're doing it, and then kind of gives a brief overview on what is a service line. And this can also be totally customized to fit each utility's needs. And then from here is where the survey is accessed. And this is, again, this can be totally customizable to fit each utility's needs, the red or the required fields. It also provides information on how to identify the type of service line material. So we just want to make it as easy as possible for the customer to provide this needed information. And then, of course, being able to add a photo will help in the verification process. Here's the editor app. So we just kind of mocked up an area around our office here in Wichita. So you can see that we have some services that are already incorporated into the system. So like if I go down here to this one down here, then you can edit all the required information that is required for the KDHE submittal. And as I previously mentioned as well, of already having all this information in your GIS is extremely helpful, because all this would already be populated for you. And then like in this case, the utility status is lead, and the customer status is lead as well. And then you can add additional information for that service line. And lastly, here is basically the same thing what I showed on that screenshot, was just the live dashboard. Just that gives a general overview on the metrics of the inventory. And with that, I will hand it back over to Kristen.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Sheldon. That was sort of our brief overview of this whole package. So you could see that there's a focused area for customers to enter their information, another area for the utility owner and operator to review the information that's been submitted and make changes and edits and go through a verification process. And then sort of a monitoring page like this dashboard again for the utility owner and operator to be tracking and monitoring this whole process in terms of what has been submitted, what needs to be submitted, and then where things are at within their own operations. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight again that this is customized to output into the exact format that KDHE is required. So hopefully can make that be a relatively easy process. So with that, we're glad to open it up for questions. I think maybe we're at maybe 10-15 minutes. So we're glad to answer questions. Sheldon's got the live app up. So, we can go through some trial runs to see what it would look like for one of your customers to enter this information, or what it might look like for one of your staff members on their end to verify it. So maybe I'll ask Michelle to let us know if there are any questions. It sounds like, would you prefer people type it into the chat box? Is that right?
No, feel free to just unmute yourself, and if you'd feel more comfortable putting in the chat, that's fine, but feel free to unmute and ask Sheldon, Kristen, and Sarah your burning questions.
Hi, this is Tanya from the EFC. Thank you for presenting today and sharing this with us. What feedback have you heard from communities that are using this or tools like this, and how it's helpful for them?
Good question. I might ask both Sheldon and Sarah to chime in on that. Sheldon, you want to start?
Sure. So currently, as it's just getting started, I think we have one or two clients that are actively using it. And from their feedback, it's been a great time saver, especially that they already have a lot of the required information in their GIS. And so that's been very beneficial on their end.
Sarah, do you have anything to add?
Not in terms of how it's been perceived yet, because like Sheldon mentioned, we're just starting to roll these processes out. But looking towards the future to have this all digital, whether we start from paper or have partial paper and partial digital, it's going to be beneficial to keep track of lead service lines. And then we could eventually even roll it out to keep track of sanitary sewer or roads or you name it, to really give the user the biggest benefit to using GIS as a whole.
Yeah, and I will add on that a little bit too. So we were looking at one potential client where they have all their service lines in, that's all in notebooks. And so that's something that we're kind of, trying to figure out what's the most efficient way of being able to get all that information into GIS. So, and it's great record keeping for sure. It's just a matter of that we'll have to incorporate it electronically.
Okay, it looks like maybe there's a question here. Does Esri have any metrics on customer response? Sheldon, can you handle that? Is that in the in the dashboard where you can see what proportion of your customer
Oh.
has responded?
I don't believe that was in the built-in the built-in modules, but I would think that that could be easily incorporated, because you could have your number of lines, and then you could see which one of those has responded to the survey.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, what we're showing here is sort of the template that the Esri software has rolled out, and then we've customized it to the KDHE reporting. But yes, it can definitely be customized for almost any metric you're looking for. Let's see, here's another question. Is there any way to use this project without GIS, such as the survey?
The survey, it's all based on, the one that we are showing is all based on ArcGIS, and a subscription is required for that. However, it's very affordable, and it can be as minimum of one user. So, and that's just on a yearly basis.
Yeah, just to give it,
Oh,
just to
go
give
ahead,
a sense
Kristen.
of- just to give a sense of the cost, you know, Sheldon mentioned about having kind of one subscription or one license. You know, that's really as low as $500 a year. So, you know, which, you know, that opens up access to this, as well as you know, the entirety of your GIS. So you can add whatever information you
Right.
want to add. You can do all sorts of analyses, build all sorts of customized apps. And again, it's just this kind of $500 a year subscription that enables all of that.
I was gonna piggyback off of what you guys said as well. We have had concerns with some of our clients that don't necessarily think they would get a good survey from their customers if they just offered the GIS version. So our approach to that is to send out both the link and then a paper survey as well, that either on our end or on the water suppliers end, the paper survey would get input into GIS.
Yeah.
So that we can still capture that data, but we're giving them a different opportunity or another opportunity to be able to provide it to us.
Very good. Okay, here's another question. Do we use water meters or addresses as the point data? We have water meter data and water mains already.
So for the customer that we're currently set this up for, we use their water meter data. We just found that was the easiest and most efficient way of getting it in there. And then we can just relate the line information to that point. So it's going to be separate from the actual meter feature. It's going to be a point on its own, but we just used the meter to get it started for this purpose.
Very good. Okay, here's another question. And folks, feel free to, if you have follow-up questions, type them in, or if we don't quite answer it the way you're looking for, definitely feel free to type it in. Here's the next one. We have a lot of our data already set up in our GIS, but we have not used Survey 123. Should we use a blank survey or Survey 123 Connect?
I would use Survey 123 Connect. That has a lot more capabilities than just the one on the web. But you can also start with the one within this Esri solution would be a good starting point.
Kristen, this is Brian. Me and Michelle have been working on some tech issues, so thanks for doing what you're doing. This is a great presentation. It really looks useful for what I know the struggles that the utilities are going to be facing getting the lead and copper rule stuff. So thank you, Kristen. Thanks. There's a question above there about the GIS. And let me see. Like, so Michelle and I were working on some technical issues. Sorry about that. There's a question from Kate Unruh. Is there any way to use this project without GIS, such as a survey? And if you already addressed that question, I apologize. Got hung up on technology here. So.
No problem. Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. And I'll let Sarah speak to that again.
Yeah, for sure. So we are offering both solutions to our client. We're pushing the GIS because it is digital and it's a record that's all going to be in one place. However, we understand it's important to be able to capture as much data as we can. So we will be offering paper surveys as well that either PEC or the water supplier would then input into GIS once we have those collected.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I said, was working on some tech issues behind the scenes. So thank you for that. Sorry, I missed that initial question. This
Yeah,
looks
no
like a
problem.
great system. Amelia, Amelia, you were on. Do you have anything you'd like to add? I hate to put you on point, but this is looking like a good approach for meeting KDHE's requirements. I know I'm putting you on point, and you might have stepped away even, but do you have anything to add, Amelia, if you are on still?
To be honest, I haven't been working with this much. Rob, Gavin, and Kathy Tucker Vogel have been working on the lead copper rule revision and lead copper rule inventory items. I've been unfortunately occupied elsewhere. So
Totally understand. Totally understand. Sorry to put you on point.
No,
So-
that's all right. There's just so much stuff we're working on that those two have been focusing on that while I've been doing other things. So
cool. The presentation, Tanya and I went to a presentation, I know, and we learned about how a lot of the stuff would be uploading directly into the database you guys is needed. So
yes, that's the spreadsheet. From what I understand, the spreadsheet's going to be uploaded directly, so we can then look at the data much easier than. We know there's going to be a lot of data, so trying to make it as easy as possible to look at it.
well, this looks like a great potential service. Sorry to put you on the spot, Amelia. So
No problem.
Greg, I hate to put you on the spot, but so coming from the Wyoming perspective, and I think actually is it Tyrell? Is it Tyrell Owens, who's one of your employees? How are you guys doing in Wyoming with this? I know it's keeping you guys, well, it's keeping the Kansas folks busy. Do you or Tyrell? And if I'm botching Tyrell's name, I apologize. Any input on this? And how are you guys approaching lead and copper in Wyoming?
Well, we're a unique situation. Wyoming doesn't have primacy. So we deal directly with Region 8 EPA to start with.
You're so lucky.
Yeah, it's all good. They're good up there. We really haven't started into this too much. I've reviewed some of the information. We are planning on using our GIS as our inventory for the lead service lines when we get ready to start working on this stuff. In this winter is when I was going to start working on our lead service line inventories and everything like that. We're trying to get our GIS tech here. He's supposed to be here in the middle of the month to help us build our spreadsheets and things like that for the inventory. We have until October of 2023 to meet the requirements since we're such a small system.
Cool, interesting to get the different perspectives, and I forgot about that you guys do work directly with EPA. So Kristen, Sheldon, really good presentation. Any other Kansas communities, you guys have questions for them? This has been some really good interchange going on.
Well, we just want to say thank you again. We appreciate this opportunity. Sarah's name and contact information is listed there. Feel free to reach out. We're always glad to chat, brainstorm. This is sort of one offering out of several that we're packaging together to assist our clients with compliance with this overall lead and copper rule. Of course, there's the inventory portion, but we know later on there'll be future requirements in terms of a replacement plan, and modeling and all sorts of things. So just wanted to let you know, we're always glad to talk, no pressure. We know this is something that's impacting Kansas communities, and we want to be a partner in helping with compliance. So give us a call. We're glad to talk.
Thanks, Kristen and Sheldon. And as a heads up for you guys, I've already shared that we're probably going to invite them back due to Kristen's comment about, GIS is so easy. If you can order a pizza on the phone, you can do it with what they're doing. So we're probably going to have them back as a speaker in the spring for this group. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess I'm looking forward to learning how I can do GIS with my phone. So, and no longer the DOS stuff.
Sounds good. We appreciate it. We'll have to have a pizza party. Order a pizza.
We'll see if I can order a Supreme. Probably not. Knowing me, we'll probably get cheese and probably no sauce on it or something. So, anyway.
Good. Well, thanks so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, our next speaker, like I said, we're lucky here at Wichita State. We get to go do trainings throughout the country, and we frequently get asked to do asset management trainings. And we got me and another trainer, Jeff Zimmerman, we got asked to go up to Wyoming and do asset management training and some other stuff. And while we were up there, we got to meet Greg. Greg Stumpff is the Public Works Supervisor. I probably botched the title, Greg, but out of Newcastle, Wyoming. And he just really impressed the heck out of me. And so I asked Greg if he would come and talk. Greg, from my experience, is very he's thinking towards the future, and he's using GIS. And what I really loved was he's using GIS in his asset management. He's stressing it to his employees. He's passing on what we repeatedly see is the need to pass on system knowledge to the incoming, to your successors. And Greg is doing that, and he's using GIS as a tool for not only that, but also what I noticed was organizational culture. He's really trying to pass on, as he nears retirement, he's trying to pass on the great systems that he's got running there in Newcastle. So I twisted Greg's arm, asked him to present on a little bit on the GIS stuff, and he agreed. He's swamped. As Greg said, I was talking with him this week. He's lost his city engineer, so he's got, like many of you, he's probably wearing 6 hats. So Greg, with that, thank you very much. We're looking forward to your presentation, and sorry if I botched anything. So I'll hand it over to you.
Nope, you're just fine. As Brian said, I'm the Public Works Supervisor for the city of Newcastle. I've been with the city of Newcastle 25 years. I'm planning on retiring in about 10 more years. Give me just a second here.
Yep, we got it, Greg. We're
Okay.
starting to get it. You'll want to go to slideshows, whatever.
Did I not do that?
Nope, you're good. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay. Well, I'm here to talk about the tools for asset management that we use and how we utilize them. Been with the city 25 years. I've been a water wastewater operator for 23 of those years. We're a small community on the western side of the Black Hills. We serve about 3,500 people in town. We have several consecutive systems that we work with as well. It's really nice here. We live on the edge of the Black Hills, so in Wyoming. In our water and wastewater operations, we use tools. We do our work primarily with those. Here we have 4 wells, all artesian. We do not have any treatment. We don't even chlorinate yet. So most of our work is field work. We use backhoes, vac trucks, everything from a screwdriver to a vac truck. The better our tools are, the better we can perform our job. And in this job, passing on the information is a very important part of it. One of our greatest assets, as far as I'm concerned, after researching asset management, is the people that we work with and the people that work here. Getting the information they need into their hands is probably one of the more priority things I think needs to happen. We invest a lot of time and effort into these people, including myself. And a lot of times we have to learn from the school of hard knocks, and we gain wisdom whiskers. If you can't notice, I got plenty. When I first started with the city, there really wasn't any kind of formal management plan really to speak of or anything like that. As I grew older and worked in the system even further, succession planning became an important part of this, I think. There's unique things in every system. I call the hidden gems, and they usually teach us the school of hard knocks pretty hard sometimes. The picture on the right is one we found when we dug up something, when we dug up to fix a leak. You can't see it, but the service line actually curves around the right, came all the way across this valve, and we found out this valve was in there. It wasn't mapped out. There was nothing indicating that valve was even there until we dug it up. So the GIS has given us the ability to identify some of these hidden gems, as I like to call them. And pictures are worth 1,000 words. As you can see, that was an interesting one to find. During all this process of growing up in the city the last 25 years, I really didn't notice that even with an informal process of succession planning, my bosses were planning it. Originally, I started out with a foreman and a supervisor. I started out in the trenches, literally in the trenches. And as we worked together, they worked with me and increased my skill levels. And then I noticed they started giving me just a little bit more responsibility. I didn't realize it, but they were grooming me to take over their positions. When the foreman left, I stepped into his role, took on some more responsibility. So in short, I guess the succession planning happened without even me realizing it. Looking back, I can see it plain as day. But with that, as I near my retirement, an important part to me is how to pass on the knowledge that I have. And so many people don't have to learn as hard or learn from their school of hard knocks. The people that come after me are the ones that are going to keep the system going, even after I'm gone. Used to be, we had a couple old timers that really did not want to give up any of the information they had. They felt that information was power. That knowledge is power, and it is. Not knowing where certain things are, then you got to go dig for it and look for it and find it on your own. And that can be fairly difficult from time to time. I am not that way. I want people that I work with to have the information so they don't have to learn from the school of hard knocks as much. We call this institutional knowledge. The institutional knowledge is key in what we do. As-builts were drawn up in 1967 for most of Newcastle. So with those as-builts, there's stuff that we don't know where it's at. The GIS is a very powerful tool and has given us the ability to map those problem spots, map those hidden gems, put them in everybody's hands. Originally, before we found out about ArcGIS, we used Google Earth, which was fine. One person had it on their computer, not everybody could share that information. Once we started into the GIS, we found out that we could share this information throughout our entire department, which primarily is field workers. So we purchased tablets and started inputting information, stuff like that. And we really found out how powerful this tool really was. Since then, we've mapped out thousands and thousands of points. One good example of this and how to get the institutional knowledge into people's hands that need it. Our meter reader, oh gosh, he probably worked for us for 20, 25 years. He did all the meter reading, read all 1,572 meters every month for as long as I can remember. He ended up getting a dog bite, ended up off work for about 3 months. So there were others, myself included, 3 of us stepped in and read the meters for those 3 months. I really thought I knew the system fairly well, but after reading the meters for him for 3 months, I realized I didn't know the system nearly as well as I thought. He knew where everything was, and the rest of us really didn't. It took him about 10 days to read meters out of every month. It took 3 of us 10 days to read the same amount of meters, simply because we didn't have the information he did. We didn't have his institutional knowledge. After we got the GIS, luckily we had on the ground floor, we started our meter reader very first thing. And it was a different meter reader. He'd been reading meters for a couple of years, 3 years. And he sat down and either in the field or in the shop and added all the meter points, everything we needed to know about the meters, their locations, if they were touch read, if they were analog, and really took the time to do this. Well, about 2 years ago, he got sick. No, about a year ago, I guess, he got sick. And he couldn't read the meters anymore. With utilizing the GIS, we were able to still read the meters, and one person could read them in the 10 days. They had a tablet in one hand, the reading equipment in the other, which we've had 7 meter readers now in the last 2 years reading meters at different times, and they were able to function and could do what our old meter reader could in the same amount of time, simply because they had the GIS in their hand. They had all that knowledge and didn't have to go searching through the bushes for every single meter, which was a big asset for us. It's really shown us that utilizing this tool, we can cut our workload down and our training down in about half. Comes down to the institutional knowledge for me and passing this on. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, really didn't need it, but we did end up with it. The picture on the right is a bunch of valves. We sent one of our guys up to look at these valves and see which ones were on and off and stuff like that. But he really had no idea what these valves did. He just knew they were there in the ground and we told him to go do it. Well, after we got the GIS, we sent a different person up to do a similar job for an engineer. He pulled up the GIS and could see what the valves were for and what they needed to be used for. It's definitely a way to download an old guy's brain. And somehow in the last 25 years, I ended up becoming the old guy, which I really didn't plan on, but here I am doing it. We do plan on the system being here after I'm gone. I don't need to contain this information in my brain and my brain alone. If that's what makes me important, then that's the wrong aspect to look at. As I said, this is a very powerful tool. It shortens our training time significantly. We can download the institutional knowledge because the last time I looked, I didn't have a USB port behind my ear that we could do that. Helping it's really helping us to ensure a level of service for our customers and our citizens as we go through this. We've actually taken this way beyond the water and sewer side of things. We've included our roads, trees, parks, irrigation systems, storm sewers, just everything we've inputted and are working with this. As I said, the radio read system, we have a radio read touch read. We still have some analogs. We just started a new person reading meters about 3 months ago. We had one person working with that individual for 1 month, and that was basic for one reading cycle, 1 month. They were able to read everything they can and get it all done in a timely fashion, just simply because we utilize it as a training tool so people can find things on their own. And it, like I said, it did reduce our training time. On the right, you can see some of the information we have on our meter locations. We are actually expanding that to add lead service lines so we can utilize this as our inventory, which will be a big help in the future. When you need the information, it's there, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The people that need the information have it. Like I said, we're primarily field crew. We only have one person in our shop. Everybody else is out and about in pickups doing their job. They have the needed information at their fingertips when they need it. It easily identifies those hidden gems as long as you input the data. This valve in particular on this slide, 10 o'clock at night, I get a call. I'm actually out of town at a hockey game, actually. Coming home, and one of my guys calls me and says, we have a main break on First Avenue. Where do I find the valves? I told him, well, pull up the GIS, see what you come up with. He goes, okay, I see where to shut them off. No problem. By the time I got home, or got back to Newcastle, they had the water shut off. Everything was good. We got locates called in. The one person that was with me, or the one person who was on call, told me, hey, this one valve over here is closed though. I said, well, yeah, probably supposed to be. He says, well, why? I says, well, why don't you pull it up on your GIS and take a look at it and see what you find. If you notice in the notes, it says the valve is normally closed. It's a pressure zone separation. You could see the light go on in his head, above his head. And he really saw what he needed then, and he could utilize the GIS to accomplish this. I've just touched and started working with this portion of it, the GIS. I found it to be very handy and very useful when I can pull up the information I need. Say, I want to know what, like on the slide here, which analog meters we have and which ones are not analog. We're in the process of converting over to a radio read system. COVID had shut that down, so we had 2 years where we weren't able to go into houses and install new meters, replace the analogs, and install the radios. So looking back on it, and the last 2 years, we really didn't know where we were at now that we can start getting back into houses and working on a radio read system again. So pulling up an inventory such as this, you can query it, you can find the information you need, and really fine tune where you want to start working on radios again. We've utilized this data capability for our revised total coliform rule, our lead and copper rule, several other things. I mean, it's amazing how much you can really do with this. And I've just touched the tip of the iceberg with what I do. One warning I can give anybody and everybody about ArcGIS and the GIS system is data. When you're doing your data entry, it's an absolute necessity to do accurate data input. You need to go the extra mile. If you have to go into the field every 10 minutes, go in the field every 10 minutes, get the information you need. We commonly say with this and data entry and inputting everything, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you are inputting bad data, you're going to get bad data out. We hired a person we thought was a good, seasonal worker, didn't know the system very well, had absolutely zero institutional knowledge whatsoever of our system. We had this person marking out our valves, inputting the data, and we found out very quickly that this was a very bad idea. The person was doing what they said they had the as-built to go off of, but they didn't have the institutional knowledge that they really needed to do the job. So we now have time to do it twice, I guess. And we have extra work to go back and correct a lot of this. Luckily, it wasn't a whole lot of information, but a whole lot of data, but yet we still have to go back and correct it so we have accurate data. Like with the lead service line stuff, what type of pipe is in the ground? Well, we have to indicate that on there. And that was where it really became confusing, because our as-builts do have our cast iron lines, abandoned cast iron lines, and our newer lines all on the same map. So unfortunately, we learned a valuable lesson there. Along with this, GIS is a living electronic document, basically, is the way we look at it. We have to do our due diligence in order to get the information updated when we change it. Again, data accuracy is at the highest level of concern for me with doing this. We recently upgraded a water main this summer. Before we even got the as-built back from the engineers, I sent 2 guys out. They went out and GIS'd all the new valves, moved everything around, and we have all the current data now on our GIS. We still haven't received the as-builts. We probably won't until mid-March, but if we have an issue, the people that need it have the information when they need it. Another area that we're working on is getting this information in the hands of our fire department. A lot of times they need to know where the hydrants are. We're always adding hydrants, replacing hydrants. They will have the information when they need it. They have a lot of new people in their department that really don't know where all their hydrants are. They have a similar situation. They have old guys and they have young guys. The old guys know where the hydrants are and they can drive right up to them. The young guys, they don't. So getting the information into their hands helps out as well. Basically, this is, I've utilized GIS not only as an asset management for our succession planning. Every organization will need to plan for the future and plan of who's going to succeed. Everybody, basically. And if you don't plan for it, it's going to be a struggle. Luckily, my bosses, when they started grooming me to take over their place and eventually work through the chain, without me even realizing it, we saw a very seamless changing of the guards in the process of this. GIS is a great succession tool. It's a way to really get that information into people's hands that need it. And in an older system that like we work in, with a lot of incorrect mapping in different areas, certain areas of town they did great at, certain areas they didn't. We find a lot of hidden gems. And yeah, it'll surprise you. It'll definitely get your attention when you do find one, especially when you hit the line, because there isn't supposed to be a line there. But basically, this is all in a process to try and pass the information on. So one day I get to go fishing and don't have to worry about this anymore.
Thanks so much, Greg. If anybody has questions for Greg, feel free to unmute and ask away.
Greg,
I don't have a question, but I'd like to throw out there. My name's Tyrell Owens. I'm on the city of Newcastle, the city council. I was a former employee of the Public Works Department, but Greg's been really awesome at working with our council and kind of educating them as to the benefits of their GIS program. And it's led us to adopting an asset management firm to come in and help with the asset management in our town. So yeah, and Greg's been great too at kind of showing us where we have problem areas in town that need attention. And I'm sure that a lot of people are suffering from having aging and failing infrastructure in their system. So it's been great having Greg fill that role and help us out with the city and get the city council involved. So I would urge anybody here that's a public works director, get this education to your boards and councils, and it'll help you in the long run. So with that, thank you.
Yeah, to continue on with what Ty said, we actually had one of our council members that didn't even know we had this. We had a meeting, we were discussing some of the service line issues because he was asking about the lead service lines. So I pulled it up, showed him what we had on our GIS and told him we're utilizing this to continue on. He goes, "That's really cool. When did we get that?" Well, about 5 years ago. So yeah, no, and it's just another tool. Asset management is a broad spectrum. Like Tyrell said, we are venturing down the road towards a computerized maintenance management system that will integrate with our GIS, so we can spatially see issues as well.
Ty, thanks for sharing that. That was my impression. I was so impressed with Greg. And he shared that he's working, he's educated your mayor, and him and the mayor, at least a couple months ago, were on the same page, and hopefully that's still the case. I mean, Greg, I just can't just impress the heck out of me. And I'll share with you that in the trainings that we do, we frequently hear folks, and it's frustrating because we hear folks, the operators that in some of these systems where the knowledge is power, and they want to keep it in their head, and they want to contract out after they retire and make more money. I love Greg's approach because Greg shares it, and it just wonderful, very forth thinking in the future. Great approach, and that's why he impressed the heck out of me. You're lucky, Tyrell. So and Newcastle's lucky. Greg, how much a year do you spend on GIS? Do you know, or how'd you get started? Here in Kansas, I think some of our communities, I think one of our state agencies had some GIS funding, some startup funding available a few years ago, but I think that's dried up. So, and some of the folks on the call can probably correct me. So what's your base system, and how much do you spend a year? And
don't quote me on it, but I believe we spend $1,500 a year. We actually joined into a group of 3 counties. So our county and 2 neighboring counties went in together. They opened it up to the municipalities to utilize their ArcGIS system. So it's kind of a group thing. We all share a little bit of the cost, and everybody gets the advantage to use it. Or has the advantage to use it. So it's worked out well for us.
Cool. I like that approach. I'm trying. I might be off basis here. Is there a licensing issue between counties? What you've got here on the call is we got a good representation of communities throughout Kansas, where some of them are spread. I don't know if any of them are really close together. One of them that sticks in my mind is Russell is on. That's a community in Western Kansas. Anyway, is there licensing issues did you encounter licensing issue with doing 3 different communities or counties? Or
that I really don't know anything about. Our city engineer was actually the one that worked with the counties to get this done. I think the licensing is through one of the neighboring counties that started this. But I really can't speak on how that all works and how the licensing is.
No problem. It's, yeah, no problem. I said, I love their presentation. Folks have additional questions? And Greg, is your base system, did I hear you say ArcGIS? Is that your base system?
Yeah, Esri ArcGIS.
Brian, this is Amelia Springer. I had a comment for Greg. I work for KDHE, our state, and I work with our enforcement and capacity development section. I just want to commend you for doing what you do, whether you did it in ArcGIS or wrote all your knowledge down on paper. I hear too many operators in cities and rural water districts that their operator passes away or suddenly leaves and nobody knows anything about the system. And that just puts their pride and joy that they've worked with for 30 years at risk. And I want to commend you for doing that for your community, because that's the people that, you know, you're there taking care of them even after you leave. So thank you very much.
Well, actually, as you mentioned, districts and stuff, shoot, right after I got licensed, the old city engineer believed in allowing for us to moonlight, so I could work for other districts as well. And I started out with one little district, worked their water wastewater operations. The guy wanted to retire. He was older, wanted to step back. All of a sudden, I ended up with 7 systems before it was all said and done, and worked a side business basically for about 17 years. That's when I really learned how invaluable the institutional knowledge can be. One of the gentlemen that wanted to step down as an operator, and I took over as a contract operator, he got dementia. And basically I was handed a set of as-built, told to report monthly, and that was it. I didn't have any other information. This district was actually spread out larger than the city of Newcastle. So I literally had to go out and find all this information for myself. Luckily, I documented as best I could what was going on, but it gave me an interesting perspective working for these smaller systems with very poorly drawn as-built and the operators wanting to step down because they're older. So I definitely understand what you mean by the older people wanting to get out of it, and I spent 17 years doing that. So
Definitely put you in a bad spot.
I like challenges.
There you go.
Brian, would it be appropriate for me to plug my organization?
Sure.
Okay. I'm the state field manager for Wyoming for Midwest Assistance Program. And we have a footprint. We cover a 9-state area. So we actually have staff in Kansas. So we actually did a GIS mapping project for Burden, Kansas, when we came down to do our all-staff conference in Wichita. So we do provide GIS mapping services for communities at no cost to the community. So I can put our website into the chat if you guys would be okay with that.
Yeah, we're all about trying whatever we can do to advance asset management and for the utilities. Like I said, this particular project, we're funded by KDHE to help coordinate these meetings, and KDHE is I'm so impressed with the state, at least me. They're trying to, I think it's throughout the country, EPA and the state agencies are trying to provide the services that they can to keep those to keep systems up and running and safe. So yeah, no problem at all. Thank you.
No,
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, one more thing on that. Shelley Underwood is our state field manager for Kansas. She's really been actively involved in the lead and copper rule stuff that's coming down the pike. And she actually did a GIS mapping project inside of a school in Burden, and showed all of the different sampling points and, you know, where they were taking samples, which ones had been sampled, and the length of time the water sat in the pipe, all the stuff they needed to do. So it was a really good and extensive project. But if you guys go to that website, you'll be able to find the contacts for Kansas if you guys are interested. But anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's all about sharing this particular meeting, and yeah, that's all. Thank you. You guys are lucky. I love hearing Greg and the information that he's sharing. I love that slide where it talked about the 19 turns or whatever. I mean, and the valve is closed at 19 turns. That's wonderful information. That's what this stuff is all about. So I feel lucky to have had Greg in class. He should have been teaching it instead of me. Are there additional questions or anything? None being heard. Thank you all. Like I said, this is the AMUG group, Asset Management User Group. We're funded, you know, we get funded from KDHE to do this. Things, like I said, we used to meet in person before the virus. I'm not sure. I like meeting in person, but I also like these internet-based ones. So feel free to shoot me ideas if you'd like to host one, or if you'd like to have some topics shared at our next one. We'll try and get one scheduled sometime in the spring, probably February, March, April, somewhere along those timeframes. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Sure. So we'll get this video from today uploaded, and you should be getting an email from me later today or maybe early tomorrow that has all of these resources that folks have talked about today, and some other resources regarding asset management, and contact information that has been shared. So you can kind of have a little bit of a recap from today. So expect an email from me soon with links to all this good stuff.
And with that,